I've been talking about other employment news, and this story goes right along with it. And WTF Florida, like seriously, what is going on? Florida blocks heat protections for workers right before the summer. Like I said, WTF Florida. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has signed a law that prevents cities or counties from creating protections for workers who labor in the state's often extreme and dangerous heat. 2 million people in Florida, from construction to agriculture, work outside in often humid, blazing heat. For years, many of them have asked for rules to protect them from heat, paid rest breaks, water, and access to shade when temperatures soar. After years of negotiations, such rules were on the agenda in Miami-Dade County, home to an estimated 300,000 outdoor workers. But the new law signed Thursday evening blocks such protections from even being implemented in cities and counties across the states. Miami-Dade pulled its local heat protection rule from consideration after the statewide bill passed the legislature in March. It's outrageous that the state legislature will override the elected officials of Miami-Dade or other counties that really recognize the importance of protecting that community of workers, says David Michaels, an epidemiologist at George Washington University and a former administrator of the federal OSHA administration. The loss of the local rule was a major blow to Miami-Dade activists and workers who had hoped the county heat protection rules would be in place before the summer. In a press conference on Friday, DeSantis said the bill he signed did not come from him. There was a lot of concern out of one county, Miami-Dade, and I don't think it was an issue in any other part of the state. I think they were pursuing something that was going to cause a lot of problems down there. But the extreme heat will only get worse. Last year was the hottest summer in Florida's history, and this year will likely be the hottest summer in Florida's history, says Esteban Wood, director of the advocacy group We Count, one of the organizations working on heat protections in Miami-Dade. The new law, he says, represents a profound loss for not only the campaign, but for all the families that have, for many years, been fighting for the minimum, which is just water, shade, and rest, and the right to return home after work alive. Just reading that, it sounds so odd that that the governor is like, no, that's just doing too much. No, they're just causing problems. It's just they want water and a break in the heat. Lupe Gonzalo knows this reality well. She used to pick tomatoes in Florida during the summer, and she'd find herself woozy from the heat. Sometimes she'd cramp up or get piercing headaches. Gonzalo shoved bottles of water into every pocket, but even that wasn't nearly enough to get her through the day. Some colleagues, she says, went to the hospital with heat exhaustion, and some even died. Without water, without rest, the body of a worker, it resents it, Gonzalo says in Spanish. The heat has already caused problems this spring. Samuel Nava, a landscaper from Homestead, Florida, says in March his coworker collapsed with heat-induced cramps. Nava helped him get to the emergency room. Nava says he's used to the heat, working for months on end in high humidity, his clothes drenched in sweat. Es como una sauna. He says it's like a sauna. Patchy national protections against heat. Heat risks have grown dramatically in recent years. Globally, since the 1980s, climate change has made heat waves last longer. They come more frequently and affect bigger areas. The worst heat waves are several degrees hotter now than they would have been without human-caused climate change. The U.S. experienced its hottest ever summer in 2023, and Florida recorded its hottest ever July and August. The heat index, a measure that incorporates both temperature and humidity, stayed above 100 degrees Fahrenheit for 46 days in a row in Miami. Despite the increasing risk, there are no federal rules regulating when it's too hot to work, even though thousands of heat-related injuries and dozens of deaths are reported across the U.S. every year. There is a federal requirement that employers keep workers safe on the job and recommendations for how to do so, including protecting workers from extreme heat. But the guidance doesn't say exactly what those protections are or what to do when limits are surpassed. A handful of states or local jurisdictions like Miami-Dade have attempted to create some protections. Some have succeeded, but more have stalled or failed. California was the first to establish regulations in 2006. They require employers provide shade, rest breaks, and access to cool, clean water for outdoor workers. After the rules were implemented, heat-related workers' compensation claims dropped, according to a 2021 study from UCLA. More recently, after several farm workers died in a deadly June heat wave in the Pacific Northwest in 2021, Washington and Oregon created worker protections from heat. Political headwinds have blocked other efforts. Proposals in state legislatures, including Virginia and Nevada, failed. In Texas, Austin and Dallas created ordinances that required employers to provide paid water breaks to outdoor workers. But last year, Texas Governor Greg Abbott signed a preemption law that blocked local jurisdictions from making such rules. The goal, Abbott's office said, was to prevent a patchwork of differing local rules, which they contended would cause confusion for businesses in the state. Florida's new law is similar to the one passed in Texas, though it is more narrowly focused on preventing heat protections. Lobbyists cited similar concerns to Texas, saying they wanted clarity and consistency statewide. You would think that statewide they should want to keep people alive. I mean, I am baffled at because many of these places are supposedly pro-life, but I guess they are showing you that it only extends to a fetus at conception because they don't give a damn about people once they are on this side. And simply giving someone water and shade, that's just like, whoa, that is just way too much. You guys are just asking way too much. They are willing to let people die, and like the lobbyists, this is just doing too much. Predictability and certainty is what we look for, says Carol Bowen, chief lobbyist for the Associated Builders and Contractors of Florida, an industry group. You want a set of consistent guidelines so you know the roadmap. Right now, she says, federal recommendations provide a clear enough outline. But Shafali Milserak Dasi, a labor law expert at the University of Arizona, says if the legislature is really concerned about having a patchwork of heat standards, then why doesn't the legislature itself pass a heat standard regulation? Proposed heat legislation has come up before the Florida legislature several times in recent years, but it has not moved forward. OSHA began working on national rules targeting heat in 2021, but the process could take years. Creating a new OSHA rule takes an average of 7 years from start to implementation, according to the Governmental Accountability Office. In the meantime, the state-by-state patchwork of rules leaves tens of millions of workers at risk, says Michaels. We need a solution that protects all workers, and that's what the federal standard will do. High heat risk in Florida. Nationally, the Bureau of Labor Statistics recorded 436 heat-related worker deaths between 2011 and 2021. The true number is likely higher, says Julie Fulcher, a policy expert at Public Citizen, an organization focused on worker health and safety. Are injured from heat-related issues each year. The discrepancy could come from counting technicalities. Only injuries or deaths that can be directly linked to heat usually get recorded in official stats. When someone passes out from heat stroke, for example, and falls off a ladder. But heat can affect people in less obvious ways that still lead to injury or death. Heat draws blood away from the brain, affecting people's ability to think clearly. That can lead to clumsiness or dangerous mistakes. Heat also puts stress on the body, increasing the chance of other health problems developing. Medical providers are seeing people with kidney problems from heat exposure or strokes, or because of their heart symptoms are worse after people experience extreme conditions in their homes if they couldn't run an air conditioner, says Shauna Junko, an infectious disease pharmacist and board member of Florida Clinicians for Climate Action. This article is much longer, and I'm cutting it here because I'm approaching the 10-minute mark. But if this summer is going to be as hot as they are saying, it sounds like people are going to have to really watch out for what this heat situation is going to bring. Make sure to protect yourself. And if these companies don't provide the rest breaks, recognize that living and trying to find a job is much better than dying. Like, comment.